devotional from Isaiah 58. So this week, my heart has been heavy for a number of reasons. And Isaiah 58 spoke to my soul this week. And you know how sometimes prophets tend to bring bad news. I believe that God used the prophet Isaiah to bring good news. And good news is still sometimes challenging. So I hope that you can hear this challenging good news today from Isaiah 58. This chapter is about those who are going through the motions of rituals and worship traditions, but have forgotten how to live for others. The prophet points out that not only have they forgotten others, but that they have begun to go through their motions only to get God's attention. In verse 3, we read that they humbled themselves and fasted, and yet then they were frustrated that God did not notice their acts. What God does notice is that, yes, they fast, and yes, they humble themselves, but sadly only to serve their own interests. He says, yes, they fast, but then they ended up quarreling and fighting. Yes, they humbled themselves, but then oppressed their workers. The ancient people of Israel, and I would argue Christians today, were stuck in the same patterns of worship. You know, sometimes Christianity seems like it has become something that serves only Christians rather than something that changes us on the inside out so that we can be oriented toward the other. Isaiah clarifies for the ancient people of Israel that the type of fasting God chose is one that loosens the bonds of injustice, that undoes the thongs of the yoke, that lets the oppressed go free, and breaks every yoke of bondage, that shares bread with the hungry and brings homeless into our houses. Isaiah 58 is challenging, but it goes on to give a description of what our lives would be like if we did those things instead of empty worship rituals. For example, if we remove the yoke from among us, the scripture says, and stop pointing fingers and speaking bad things, if we offer our food to the hungry and really seek to understand how to meet the needs of those who are afflicted, we learn that light shall rise in the darkness. We learn that instead of trying to be our own gods, we put our trust in the Lord who is our guide. When we step out on faith and we live for others, the Lord promises that we will be like watered gardens, like springs of water whose waters never fail. The Lord will satisfy needs in parched places and make our bones strong. And I believe God then uses strong people and watered people to bring water to dry places, to be strength to those who are weak or are weakened by others. And I believe that He calls us to be light in the dark places. So for those who feel ruined at the present moment for a variety of reasons, we have racial inequity that is weighing down people. We have circumstances due to COVID that is weighing down people. People have lost loved ones. People are experiencing disappointment. Take heart in this next part from Isaiah 58. Your ancient ruins shall be rebuilt. You shall raise up the foundations of many generations. You shall be called the repairer of the breach and the restorer of the streets to live in. Isaiah 58 reminds us in the very end to make space for others, but most importantly to make space for Sabbath, for a weekly day to rest with the Lord and to be with the Holy One. This week, my blessing and / challenge for you is that you set aside your interests or distractions and rest in His presence. And then you will be able to see how the Lord delights in you and how you delight in the Lord. And this process refuels you to do the work that the Lord is calling you to. Blessings. Have a great week.